Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Arif Zidan Ahmad, student ID 220142119, and I am here about to do a review of a text with the title of um, A True Story by Mark Twain. So, I think before we got into the story, we need to get to know with the author. So, Mark Twain, aka Samuel Langhorne Clemens, was born in November 30th, 1835. He is an American writer, humorist, entrepreneur, publisher, and lecturer. He began his career with writing light humor verse, but then he became a chronicler of vanities, hypocrisies, and murderous acts of mankind. He was master of rendering colonial speech and helped create and popularize a distinctive American literature built on American themes and language. And one of his works is A True Story that we are about to discuss. Okay, so first let me do some kind of short resume about what happened in the story. So the story first appears in Mr. C point of view and then continues on racial past experience. So this uh, Aunt Rachel is a 60-year-old Negro that lived with Mr. C and she was a slave. So her story began when she was still a slave with her husband. She has 7 kids and her favorite calls Henry. One day, her owner gone broke, so her owner has to sell all of his slaves. And on the slave auction, they got separated. So Aunt Rachel separated from her husband and her child. So after Aunt Rachel got sold, he became a slave of a family that has a big house, some kind of big house. And then one day, a union attacked their region, so that Aunt Rachel's owner have to run away and left all of his slaves. Here's happened something that Aunt Rachel never expected before. So the Union soldiers treat her better, like she was a white people. And then, with the help of with the Union soldier, she finally about to find her favorite child that missing 30 years ago. The story is some kind of like. So, from the story, we can draw a conclusion that the author tried to tell us that slavery is bad, and he tried to give that message to us by show us the point of view of a slavery itself. In this case, it's on racial. This is a good strategy by the Mark Twain to deliver his message that if we feel her point of view, maybe we can feel empathize more that, and it's like we can feel how her feeling, something like that. And here's my comment about the story. So since the first paragraph I read, I've already felt so much tension and emotion with the story because the story written in gibberish. This is maybe can't be understood by the native speaker, but for non-native speaker like me, this is so hard to understand. Even the Google Translate can understand this. Like and they saw my old man, something like that. I can't read them. And I think instead of giving a real spells of British action, maybe Mark Twain can just give a normal sentence with a normal spelling, and then give a adverb of British accent in a bracket, something like that. I think that will be helpful if he want the non-native speaker understand his story. So that is the short review I made for The True Story literary works by Mark Twain, and we move to the next literary works. Okay, so for the next story is called The Wave. It's not a movie, it's a wave that literary works that made by Liam O'Flaherty. So as usual, before we start to the review, we need to know the author. here it is. This is Liam O'Flaherty. I don't know if I pronounce it right or not, because it's very difficult to pronounce. Okay, so he is an Ireland novelist and one of the most foremost socialist writer in the first part of the 20th century. This man. So let me do a short resume about this story. So the story basically just about a wave and a cliff and something like that. The text is describing the cliff, describing the cave, describing how the wave is reaching the cave. So at first we won't know what is the reader want to tell us, because it's just like a descriptive text. But in the end, we will know that this story has a big moral value. So the story tells that how one wave doesn't have a specific impact on the cliff if it just hits once. But when the wave is hitting continuously for a long period of time, the cliff will collapse and its chunks will fall into the cave below it. So the moral story of this literature works is that even though the small thing that we are currently doing seems like it doesn't matter, it will be matter if we do it multiple times. I think something like that. Well, I think the reader tried to say something like that. So this video should be about comparison about those two texts I have described earlier. So here's my conclusion. The story about True Story of Slave by Mark Twain, I think, is pretty good. It has a deep moral value and asks the reader to feel empathize with the slave, and I think it's a fine story. So Liam's literature works, on the other hand, I think it's kind of boring and but it's also fine. So here for the last, I just want to apologize to my beloved lecturer that uh, the review I just made seems like tidak niat, but I have to do this because I didn't have enough time. So if just I had it more time, I promise I made better than this. I'm really sorry. And I think that's enough for me. Thank you for watching my review, even though it's kinda useless. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.